That was fun, but that little noodle's got absolutely nothing to do with this video. This isn't a good time. I'm trying to make a video. Down you get. Say hi. So this video is all about getting started playing with other people and making that leap from being a bedroom guitarist to being somebody who plays with actual other human beings in real life. Now, I should start by saying that maybe making music on your own at home in your room is satisfying and that's all you need to do and all you want to do, and that's absolutely fine. But I think that most musicians sooner or later find themselves in the position where they want to start playing with other people. They need to get outside that literal or metaphorical bedroom, and that, after all, I think is what music is all about. It's a social thing, it's an interactive thing. It's about bringing joy and happiness to other people, if that's not too hippie-ish a sentiment. And it also happens to be the most fun way of improving as a guitar player. So this video contains my thoughts on getting started playing with other people. That could just mean getting together with a friend for a bit of a play and a jam. It could mean rehearsing and starting your first band. And I'm going to be talking about some practical guitar stuff, so a little bit about guitar knowledge and theory and chord progressions. I'll talk a little bit about gear. I'm going to talk about how you might find people to play with and what you might actually do when you get together for that first jam session. So it's going to be a bit of a talky video. It might become a little bit of a rambly video, but I hope that if you're in the position where you're starting to think about playing with other people, then you'll find this video interesting and helpful. Thought I'd do a guitar change in an effort to make a talky video a little bit more interesting. So it's a big leap getting out of that bedroom for the first time. I think for many players this is quite a big deal, and understandably so. It's the first time you're going to be putting yourself out there. Maybe you've never played in public before, and there's lots of potential for nerves and anxiety and embarrassment. And what if you're not good enough? What if you're not as good as you think you are? What if you don't know the right kind of stuff? So I think one of the best things you can do is to get prepared. And by that I mean making sure you've got some solid basic guitar knowledge, the kind of things that are going to make it easier when you start playing with other people, and the kind of things that are going to give you a bit of confidence. Now, I certainly don't want to encourage procrastination here. I think if the opportunity does arise to play with other people, then you should just take that opportunity and just do it and have fun and learn from the experience, and not wait around until you feel ready, because that day might never come. But having said that, there are, I think, certain things that would be useful to work on and to know in advance. Playing with others is so much easier if you've got a basic knowledge of the notes on the guitar and of all of your basic major and minor chords. Now, I've spoken before about the importance of knowing the notes on the fretboard. And I'm not talking about being an absolute fretboard master here. I'm simply talking about knowing how the musical alphabet works. I suggest learning by heart the names of the notes along the length of the low E string, and also just being able to work out the names of any of the other notes on the fretboard if you need to be able to do that. Now, this is not hard to do. I've made a video myself about learning the fretboard. There are loads of apps, there are loads of other videos on YouTube, so no excuses. Learn your notes. Also, really essential, I think, is having a strong command of your basic major and minor chord types. So you're going to need to know your open position cowboy chords, as they're known. So your E's, A's and D's. Know some minor shapes as well. So A minor, D minor, E minor, etc. Maybe some seventh chords too. Those will be useful to you. Also, I think important to have a basic knowledge of some bar chord shapes, because with bar chords you're going to be able to play any of the 12 major or minor chords that you might need. So do you know how to play an E flat major chord without thinking about it? Do you know how to play an F sharp minor, maybe in a couple of places on the fretboard? If you don't know that stuff, then working on those bar chords is certainly something you should be doing, and really learning the names of them as well, because that's going to make communicating with other players, other musicians, much easier. Guitar change to a Strat. It's going to be useful to you to know a little bit of basic music theory. Now, I'm not talking about anything too heavy here, but the most basic starting point when you're playing with somebody else is to be playing together in the same key, and it's important to know what that means. So if you're playing a song in the key of E, for instance, it means that the E chord is going to be the home chord of the song. It's going to be the tonal center. It's likely that you're going to start and end the song on an E chord, and you're going to be hovering around that E kind of sound quite a bit. If a song is in a minor key, if a song's in the key of A minor, it just means that A minor is going to be the most important chord, the tonal center of the song. Again, you're likely to start and finish on that chord. Beyond that, I think it's useful to know what chords are likely to occur and go together in a particular key. So my starting point would be to understand the 1, 4 and 5 chords in a given key. So again, if we're in the key of E, then it's likely you're going to find some A and some B in that song or piece of music as well. Those are the 1, 4, 5 chords in the key. It's the most common chord combination or chord progression in music. And knowing what those 1, 4, 5 chords are is really as easy as knowing your alphabet. If the E chord is the 1, then you just have to go up 4, E, F, G. A is the 4 chord, and then E, F, G, A. B is the 5 chord. And those 3 chords are going to fit together nicely. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that's just some basic, simple music theory there. Might like to think of this visually on the guitar. That always works quite well. So if you've got your root of your 1 chord somewhere along the low E string, this is an A note for instance, then the root of the 4 chord is going to be at the same fret over on the A string, and then the 5 chord is going to be 2 frets up from the 4 chord. So it's very easy visually to figure out what the 1, 4 and 5 chords are in a particular key like that. So in the key of A, we've got A, D and E. If you're in a minor key, you just need to make all of those chords minor. So A minor, D minor and E minor. Going a little bit deeper, it's useful to know all of the chords that belong to a particular key. Now, I'm not going to go into an in-depth theory lesson right now, but it's knowing, for instance, that in the key of C major, we've got 7 different chords which all belong to the key and all will sound good together in chord progression. So in the key of C major, those chords will be C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, which you don't need to worry about too much, and then we're back to C again. So we've got really 6 different chords. We've got the 1, 4, 5 major chords, and then we've got the 2, 3, 6 minor chords. And musicians will often communicate in terms of numbers, so they'll number the chords in a key, and that's just a really convenient and easy way to describe chord progression. So being able to think in that way is very useful. Then when somebody says we're in the key of C, let's play a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression, then you'll know what they're talking about and you'll be able to just go C, A minor, F and G. Now this is an important one. If you've only ever played on your own, then you can get used to playing out of time or with a bad feel and not even be aware of it. You can be in that kind of deluded bedroom player state of mind where you think everything sounds great, but then you get together with other people and you can be in for a bit of a shock when you're struggling to play in time or struggling to stay synchronized with everybody else. So rhythm is the most important thing to work on when you're practicing, and it's really important that you have this together before you start playing with other people. And there are lots of ways of doing this. I'm not going to go into too much detail now. You can play with a metronome. That's obviously going to give you something to lock into and to stay in time with. You can also just work on tapping your foot or moving your body with the music. And it's really just about whenever you've got a guitar in your hands, you should be trying to play in time and with a good feel. I think playing along to backing tracks can help. Playing along to records can be really helpful. And also an important one for me is recording myself. I can record myself, then listen back with some degree of objectivity, and I'll really know whether something is sounding good and in time or not. I'll change to an acoustic now. You need to be able to play a 12-bar blues. Even if you hate the blues, if you see yourself as some angular post-punk player who rejects the blues and all that it stands for, you need to be able to play a 12-bar blues. The blues is the common language between all musicians, and it's actually really fun to get together and jam through blues with other people. So there's no need to be Peter Green here. You just need to be able to play a simple 12-bar blues in the most common guitar key. So playing a blues in A, something like this. Just strumming some simple chords. Just A7, D7 and E7, that will be a good start. You might want to get into this kind of shuffle pattern. Nice if you're able to play the blues in all keys, I think. So if you're able to take that shuffle pattern, all these seventh chords a bit higher up the neck, and if you're playing with a saxophone player, you might be expected to play a blues in B flat or one of those weird jazz keys. So try and be able to do that too, I think. And if blues really isn't your thing, then I think you should have a modest repertoire of a few tunes, so you're not a complete loss when you get together with somebody and you go, what are we going to play? So have a handful of tunes that you're able to play by heart, that you're able to jam with others on. I didn't really want to talk about gear in this video, as I think it's mostly irrelevant to this subject, but I know that gear is something that a lot of people worry about and obsess over. And you just have to go on YouTube and you start thinking, my God, I need to have this pro level rig before I'm able to leave the house and play with others. Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't need some pro level rig before you can play with other people. I'm a big fan of keeping things simple and minimal in these kind of situations. You simply want a guitar that you're comfortable with, that sounds good, that is reasonably well set up and will hold its tuning. If you're playing through an amp, then I think you just want something that sounds good and is, again, appropriate for the situation. You don't need masses of volume. You don't need loads of effects and loads of gadgets and options. My favourite amps to use live and in rehearsal situations are the very simple ones. So today I'm playing through my little Fender Super Champ, which is a great sounding amp, and it's perfectly loud enough for a rehearsal situation. If you're playing in front of more people, you can always put a microphone in front of it and have it going through the PA system. As far as pedals and effects go, maybe you don't need them at all. I mean, one of my favourite approaches when I'm rehearsing or playing with other people is just to use the volume knob on my guitar to give me the different sounds that I need. So I've got my lead sound, which is when everything is on full. And then for my rhythm sound, I'm just going to back off the volume knob a little bit. And you've got a nice rhythm sound there. No need for loads of pedals and other options. And if you must use pedals, and I think with some amps, pedals are almost essential. If you've got a high headroom amp or a very clean sounding amp, then you're probably going to need to use some kind of overdrive pedal. So I suggest just getting a simple overdrive pedal that you like the sound of. Boss OD3 is one of my favorites. Nice and simple. And then at the most you'll probably need one other pedal, maybe a boost pedal if you need to have a rise in level when you want to take a solo or when you've got a particular part that you need to stand out. And that's it. Keep it simple. Now I think about it, there's actually one pedal that I think is essential when you're getting out of the bedroom and playing with other people, and that is a tuner pedal. And obviously a tuner pedal is going to allow you to stay in tune, but the advantages that a pedal have over using a phone app or using one of these clip-on tuners is that you'll be able to tune silently, and that's a big bonus when you're playing with other people. It means you're not going to annoy anybody with tuning noises. Banjo, anybody? So you've prepared yourself, you've got some gear that you're happy with. What about actually finding some other people to play music with? And I actually think this is easier these days than ever, so there are no excuses. There are going to be people out there who want to play music with you. Now, as far as finding them goes, I suggest start with the obvious things, like asking around with friends, work colleagues, seeing if there's somebody else who plays an instrument who wants to jam. If you can't find anybody that way, then I suggest going online. There are now plenty of websites where you can get together with band members or just to get together with other people who would like a jam. So these days you no longer have to put an ad in the back of the NME looking for hip young gunslingers. You can just go online and it's all much easier. In the beginning, I would suggest not being too picky about who you play with. I think you'll be waiting around forever to find someone who looks exactly right and who shares exactly the same niche musical tastes as you. In the beginning, I think just playing with anybody is important, and you can learn stuff playing with anybody of any level, of any musical taste. And I think insisting that someone shares the same taste in early REM, Captain Beefheart and Susie and the Banshees is just not a good way to go, and you're probably never going to find that person. I think that most bands are founded on compromises in musical taste, and that usually ends up being a good thing. Likewise with the level of musical ability, I think ideally you want to be playing with people who are at roughly the same stage as you, but if that isn't the case, it can still be fun as well. I think there are plenty of advanced musicians who are encouraging and enjoy playing with less advanced musicians, and they're often appreciate greatly someone who's just prepared to play some simple chords while they take a solo. And likewise, if you're playing with somebody who's not quite as advanced, that can still be interesting and challenging and a worthwhile thing to do. So you've prepared yourself, you've found somebody to play with. Now it's time for the fun bit, and I wouldn't overthink or overanalyze this too much. One piece of advice I have would be to make the first jam session quite a low stakes situation. I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself and make it some kind of formal rehearsal or anything like that. I just get together with a friend casually, have a few drinks and have some fun and enjoy the experience of playing with somebody else. Later on you can move on to more formal get-togethers and rehearsals, and then maybe to open mic or jam nights, and then on to gigs. It makes sense to have something to play. There's nothing worse than getting together with some other musicians and umming and ahhing about what exactly you're going to do. So prepare some stuff in advance, or agree on something in advance. It's fine to do a little bit of preparation and email the other people you're playing with and come up with a few suggestions of songs that you can agree upon. Might even be worth being super organised and printing off lyrics and chord charts and things like that. If all else fails, of course, you can play through some 12-bar blues as well. Now, as far as how you actually approach playing with somebody else in a jam situation, I think that could be a whole other video, which I may well make. But my main advice here, I think, is to listen carefully and to be sensitive to what's going on around you. Now you've made it out of the bedroom, it's no longer all about you, it's about the other people you're playing with, and it's about the overall sound that you're making. I think the best people to play with are the ones who are the best listeners. You certainly don't want to just plug in and turn up and then wail away. You need to be listening to what's going on. Keep an ear out for your volume. So if you're accompanying somebody else or you're wanting to fit in with what's going on, then keep your volume a little bit lower, and then push up your volume when you need to take a solo or when you want to play something that stands out. Work on trying to find your place in the music. So again, this is all about listening. And you might want to fit in with what other people are doing. You might want to try and contrast with what other people are doing. So a simple example would be, if another guitar player is playing open cowboy chords, then you might want to be playing bar chords, or you might want to be playing some triads or some things a little bit higher up the neck. It's all about fitting in and finding your place within the musical whole. But again, there's no need to overthink or overanalyze this stuff, particularly in the early stages. Best thing to do is just to do it, and you will learn and pick up this stuff as you go along. Recorder? No, this is a guitar channel. Fun fact, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead is a big Recorder fan. There we go, Les Paul, that's better. And that's about it for this video, and I hope that some of you have found this interesting and useful. I hope that I've not made this too waffly and more complex than it needs to be. I think my main advice to you is just to get out there, to enjoy it, to have fun with it, and learn something from playing with other people. So thank you very much for watching. I shall see you next time. Bye bye. Watch Anyone Can Play Guitar YouTube videos, they're great.